Now, the comedian Jimmy Carr has been widely criticised for a disparaging joke about the death of thousands within the travelling community during the Holocaust. He made the comments in his latest Netflix special, His Dark Material. The Traveller movement, which supports travellers in the UK, have called the joke truly disturbing. Well, joining me now is the comedian and political activist, Kate Smurthwaite. Kate, good to see you. Did you watch this episode?
I didn't watch it. I know it came out at Christmas and we did talk about it at the time. But, you know, there's hundreds of shows on. And to be honest, when you do comedy for a living, the last thing you want to do is spend your free time watching yet more comedy. So I was unaware. And I knew that the show was predicated on the idea of there was going to be a lot of dark comedy in it. But it was only when it suddenly hit the news yesterday that I was like, oh, really? I mean, you know, I know Jimmy well, and I know that he often, you know, edges around controversial subjects, and he likes to kind of get a bit of a gasp, you know, before a laugh quite often. But he, in my experience, when I've worked with him in the past, he's always kind of, you know, done the sort of setup where you're like, that's outrageous, you can't say that. But then the punchline has turned it around and you're like, oh, you know, there's a twist on this, you know. He says murder and it turns out he means crows. You know, this kind of thing. There's a twist that takes you away from the dark side of it. So then, of course, I went and looked at this. And I mean, obviously, like I'm sure everybody who did the same, the joke is horrible. The joke is horrific. And then I was like, let's be fair and look at it in the context, because there's always context to these things. And, you know, the context is indeed that he's trying to say outrageous things and making the point that, you know, however offensive the things he says, the audience seem to keep laughing and laughing and laughing. And, you know, and it's important that we look at these things in context. But I think when we look at the context of this, I don't think that the context justifies what has been said. I think the joke is horrible. It's incredibly disrespectful to members of the Gypsy Roma and Traveller community. And that's a group of people who are currently, you know, having their way of life absolutely decimated by the new PCSC bill. There's lots of stuff going on at the moment that they're a group of people who experience enormous levels of discrimination and enormous levels of, you know, social harassment and all kinds of stuff like this. And I think it's, you know, I think it's absolutely the wrong target to use to demonstrate how offensive you can make your jokes. And I also think
Kate, you say you know him and you've worked with him. Do you think he's remorseful for this? Does he think I got this wrong?
I haven't heard from him on that front, but you know, I hope that he'll have a look at it and go, this is the wrong thing to do, and this has come across the wrong way, and it's not what I set out to do. And you know, I think people should be at liberty to, you know, admit their errors and take the material down, take the show down, and edit it or replace it with something else. I think that would make a lot of sense. I'd be delighted if he did that. I'm kind of surprised that, you know, he's a talented comedian and an intelligent man. And I think I'm kind of surprised that he didn't stop himself before this went to air and go, actually, do I really want my name on this kind of thing? Because I think...
And Kate, you said that you found it offensive.
I
mean, it's clearly, it's not, we're calling it a joke. It's not a joke, is it? I mean, it's just not a joke. Would you consider cancelling Netflix if they don't remove it?
I think that Netflix should remove it. I think that, you know, he is, of course, you know, we all have free speech. He's free to say whatever he wants, but you're not free to say whatever you want without consequences. And Netflix has every right to make choices about what they do and don't want on their platform, as do indeed all channels, including yourselves. In fact, there are words I could say right now and I know you'd never book me again. It's the fact is that everybody who produces content for TV, for radio, for newspapers, for magazines has a choice over what they do and don't put on. And I think Netflix have made the wrong choice. And I think that there will be a lot of pressure on them. And a lot of people quite reasonably feeling like, you know, if they're not going to take action over things like this, they want to cancel their Netflix subscription. And I think that's great. In fact, it just ties into the piece you just did about Iceland stopping whale hunting, because they were saying, well, people just don't want to buy whale meat anymore. So commercially, it's not viable. Well, if people don't want to listen to comedy shows that contain offensive racist material, then the pressure will be on Netflix to take those shows down, because that's, you know, I don't think it always works. that, you know, consumers can put pressure on companies and companies do the right thing. But sometimes it does. It's working for the Icelandic whaling industry. We're closing that down by all not eating whale. And congratulations to the residents and visitors to Iceland for doing that. And I hope that Netflix identifies that, again, commercially, this is the wrong decision. And morally, it's the wrong decision to leave this up, because it's a really offensive piece of material and it has no place in our modern culture. And we should be looking at what we can do to be more inclusive of the Gypsy, Roma and Traveller community, and especially what we can do to make sure that the latest piece of government legislation isn't allowed to hurt them in the way that it potentially is about to do.